It's in human nature to prefer to take the path of least resistance. Let me explain what that means. What that means is if I don't have to do something, I'm not going to do it. If there are no consequences for me not doing something, that's the path I'm going to take. Okay? If you're a student and you're watching this, you know this information very, very well. Because I imagine most of you procrastinate, which is the most common thing for students. And look, you're not dumb. You know that if you don't prepare for a test and you wait till the night before, you're going to do worse on the test than if you actually started preparing earlier, right? But suddenly, you go through your normal day and then suddenly, oh, I have a test tomorrow. How did that happen? It's because you took the path of least resistance all through the time between the test was announced and the actual test date. The path of least resistance is a passive choice, meaning it's not one that you actively make, right? It's just a situation you find yourself in because you didn't plan ahead. For example, when it comes to practicing or auditions or that sort of thing, you know the audition is coming, but for some reason you never get around to actually working on the music, and then suddenly, oh, the audition's tomorrow, right? You know that if you wait till the night before to practice for an audition, you're gonna suck. I mean, there's no getting around that at all. This is not an activity of short-term things, right? It's an activity of long-term planning and delayed gratification. If you can't wrap your head around that, you really won't do well at this, and really you're going to be a handicap in most things in life just because you can't plan ahead appropriately. The reason why people don't practice for auditions or don't study for tests or that sort of thing is because it's easier not to. It's not like you're dumb. Again, you know what you should be doing, but your body is saying, you know what, I'd rather just sit here for the rest of the night rather than actually get to work. Let me give you an example of what I mean. There are some days in which you have 1,000 things to do. As in, you get up at 5 and you get up and do all your routine normally, and you have a lot of stress during that day. Maybe you get home at 8 or 9. Somehow you manage to get all those things done probably relatively successfully, or at least you plow through them, right? Other days, you have one thing to do, right? Just one task that you know you need to do. And so, more often than not, that one task doesn't get done. So how does that work? That's you taking the path of least resistance, okay? I'm not saying that look, at heart, who I am is a fat guy who wants to stay in bed all day, play video games, and eat gummy bears. Okay, that's who I am at my core. But I've trained myself not to be that person. Why? Because that's not a future. That's not a life worth living. Let me be clear. If you're very stressed and you work a lot and you have a couple days off and it's like vacation, please go take those. I'm not saying to stay stressed all the time. You have to find a balance with this. But if your default state is taking the path of least resistance, you're going to find yourself in a hole that it's going to be very hard to dig out of. And that hole is sort of like either one of failure or mediocrity. Mental health is something that people talk a lot about nowadays. And for me, the best solution to that problem is doing things, right? It's very hard for me to get depressed if I am actually doing things on a regular basis. The moment I stop doing things, the moment I start to get idle, is when sort of those demons come into the foreground. So make sure you understand this idea, and that when you're planning things and in your daily battle of whether or not you want to be competent or incompetent, just keep this in your mind.